Just when it seemed to be behind us, the Jannik Sinner doping controversy has resurfaced. On Saturday, the World Anti-Doping Agency, or WADA, announced its decision to appeal the ruling that cleared Sinner of fault or negligence in his anti-doping case. Fans were divided on the news, as some were pleased that Sinner might face a significant suspension, while others feel that WADA's appeal was unnecessary and even unjust. I delved a bit deeper and examined similar cases to assess whether WADA's push for a suspension is truly warranted. Hey, my name is Christian Bassnight, and welcome to Christian's Court, where I cover tennis from all angles. If you haven't yet already, make sure you subscribe and click the notification bell so you are notified whenever I post more updates on this seemingly never-ending Sinner anti-doping saga. For a refresher, Sinner tested positive for clostebol, a banned anabolic steroid, twice in March, both during and after that month's Indian Wells Masters. According to Sinner, his fitness trainer Umberto Ferrara bought an over-the-counter healing spray containing the banned clostebol to Indian Wells. Then his physiotherapist Giacomo Naldi cut his hand and then used that spray on his cut. Naldi then conducted massages on Sinner, which led to the contamination with the clostebol from the healing spray. By the way, Sinner parted ways with both Naldi and Ferrara at the start of the US Open, replacing them with two former members of Novak Djokovic's team, physio Ulysses Badio and fitness coach Marco Panici. Sinner was provisionally suspended from the tour 2 separate times in April, but total it was about 4 to 5 days. Now, we didn't know about these suspensions at the time because under new ITIA rules, they allow for such information to kind of remain disclosed until the conclusion of their investigations. Sinner successfully appealed those provisional suspensions, and he continued playing on the tour because he was able to quickly pinpoint that source of contamination. However, things were still up in the air until August 15th, when an independent tribunal convened by the ITIA ruled that Sinner bore no fault or negligence for those 2 anti-doping violations. They also weren't harsh with the punishments because doctors found that the amount of clostebol was too minuscule to enhance his performance. There was a lot of controversy surrounding this, at least for like a week and a half, but it low-key just died down during the US Open, which Sinner ultimately won, and I honestly thought that was pretty much the end of it. Although Nick Kyrgios and deranged Djokovic fan Pavi G kept the Sinner hate train well alive and pushing. However, WADA submitted an appeal to the Court of Arbitration for Sport on Thursday, September 26. WADA says the finding of no fault or negligence was not correct under the applicable rules. They're seeking a period of ineligibility between 1 to 2 years. The doping agency isn't seeking a disqualification of Sinner's results except for the Indian Wells tournament, where Sinner already had his prize money and rankings points revoked. The ITIA came out with a statement, and they insisted that Sinner's case was investigated in accordance with WADA rules, but it respects WADA's decision to and their right to appeal the independent tribunal's decision. News of this appeal actually broke during Sinner's second round match against Roman Safiullin in the China Open second round, which he won 3-6, 6-2, 6-3. Sinner soon after put out a statement saying, "I am disappointed to hear that WADA have chosen to appeal the result of my ITIA hearing after the independent judges had exonerated me and deemed me to be innocent." Over the past few months and throughout this process, there have been 3 separate hearings, in each case confirming my innocence. Several months of interviews and investigations culminated in 3 senior judges scrutinizing every detail through a formal hearing. They issued an in-depth judgment explaining why they determined me not at fault, with clear evidence provided and my cooperation throughout. On the back of such a robust process, both the ITIA and the Italian Anti-Doping Authority accepted it and waived their rights to appeal. I understand these things need to be thoroughly investigated to maintain the integrity of the sport we all love. However, it is difficult to see what will be gained by asking a different set of 3 judges to look at the same facts and documentation all over again. This being said, I have nothing to hide, and as I have done throughout the summer, I will cooperate fully with the appeal process and provide whatever may be needed to prove my innocence once again. I am honestly unsure of how WADA is going to win this case, just being blunt. They're basically challenging the notion that Sinner did indeed do all he could to prevent this contamination from even happening. They are not disputing the fact that there wasn't a performance-enhancing effect. In his original statement, Sinner said that he asked Naldi, his physiotherapist, if he had used any banned products to treat his cut on his finger, but Naldi said that he did not, although we now know that he, of course, used that clostebol. I just don't know what argument they're going to use to say that Sinner was reckless, because from what I hear from the original case, Nardi was just not being upfront, or he showed negligence of not using the products or not disclosing the correct products that he used to treat the cut. I just don't know what Sinner could have done really to actually ensure that Nardi didn't use the supplement. Like, he trusted him, and maybe he could have kept pressuring him, but then too, that's kind of weird, and it would have definitely caused a lot of friction. Like, he's your teammate, he's your physiotherapist, you're supposed to trust him. So from the outside looking in, it's kind of hard to try to place that blame on Sinner and said that he should have been extra careful. I feel like he did low-key all that he could have done. I understand that the doping agency powers are really trying to set a precedent and ensure that players are being extra careful with them and their team about what supplements that they come into contact with. But I just believe that 1 to 2 years, what WADA is pushing for, is too strict. I think that with cases like these, 2 to 6 months of ban is enough if you even are going to issue a ban. Sarah Rani, for example, she was initially banned for 2 months because her mother's cancer drug, which is a banned substance, accidentally contaminated a family meal. However, CAS, the Court of Arbitration for Sport, later increased that ban to 10 months because Irani needed to be, quote, more careful. In 2021, Diana Yastremska had her provisional doping suspension lifted after 6 months, and she said that her positive test for misterolone was due to her ingesting her boyfriend's seed. I promise you, I am not lying. And then Simona Halep's infamous 4-year ban was cut down to 9 months after CAS said that her positive test for roxadustat was intentional and caused by a contaminated supplement. WADA did not appeal the rulings of Yastremska nor Halep, and I think the reason that they're trying to go after Sinner is because he did not face really a true ban or a suspension. There were no tournaments going on during those few days where Sinner was provisionally suspended, so he really did not face any consequences for the matter. That's many people's arguments, that Sinner should face at least some type of punishment for testing positive, and I do understand that, to be honest. But I do disagree with people like Nick Kyrgios who say that Sinner needs to be banned for 2 years because, as I explained with Irani and Yastremska and then even Halep, that's normally not the precedent. Those players did not receive a 2-year ban for ingesting a contaminated supplement. Because of those examples I mentioned, I think it's really highly unlikely that Sinner will get at least a year's long ban if WADA does even win this appeal. I think the most that he would get is between 6 to 9 months, because in a contamination case like that, 1 to 2 years, once again, it's just very uncommon and simply overkill. WADA was probably shooting for the stars because even they know that they're probably not going to get the 1 to 2 years, but if they shoot higher, like, the threshold is just going to be more in their favor, at least when the final decision is made. Really, I don't think Sinner should get more than Yastremska's little 6 months because it's just such a similar situation to hers. Now, before y'all try to come in the comments, I'm not really even a Sinner fan, so I'm very objective here, but I truly do think that WADA is doing too much with trying to get Sinner sidelined for 1 to 2 years. And I know it's more about the principle of it all, but again, I simply just don't know how they're going to be able to prove that Sinner could have done more to prevent the contamination from even happening. That's a whole other conversation, because on one hand, you do want to set a precedent, like I mentioned earlier, about players being more careful with what they do with these supplements, but then also, like, I feel like you shouldn't ban them that many months out of competition, especially if they didn't mean to do it. That's kind of crazy in my opinion, banning them for months. But hey, that's the rules of the rules. Now, playing devil's advocate, I know that Sinner would not want to face any suspension time, but low-key, if he did face, a couple months suspension, it might help kill some of the special treatment narrative and perhaps enhance his reputation, as he can play more of a victim character. But really, I don't think Sinner cares about that. He'd rather play and compete and have people hate on him than to serve time and miss crucial tournaments and perhaps even slams due to this suspension. Also, even if Sinner does face a few months suspension, it won't completely absolve the special treatment allegations, because bottom line, Sinner just did not face significant suspension time during that initial doping case, unlike Halep or more infamously Tara Moore, the lower-ranked Brit Moore. She was out of competition for a year and a half before an independent tribunal finally made a ruling on her case and cleared her from her contamination issue. Of course, reiterating the fact too that Sinner was able to kind of get this resolved faster because he had the legal team, a great legal team behind him, to where they were able to pinpoint it within 48 hours. So, I mean, it's privileged. Sinner was in a privileged position to have a good legal team, but hey, he did what he had to do. There was no telling uncertain when CAS will make its decision on the final appeal, and a similar case on this clostebol matter allegedly took 15 months to resolve, so Sinner could continue playing for months and years without this being resolved. Bottom line, this last ruling will indeed be the final say and last ruling, so I hope that this decision comes sooner than later because I'm just ready for this to be over. I'm really unsure of which way CAS will lean. There will be a new set of arbitrators and judges, so you just simply don't know what they will think about the matter. I ultimately do think that Sinner will win this case because he's already won 3 separate hearings on the matter. I could low-key see CAS considering all the backlash and the public's calls for Sinner to face some type of punishment and go ahead and give him something like a slap on the wrist maybe. But I think if WADA wins, then Sinner would likely get around 3 to 4 months of suspension. I think that if that is the case, then I hope for his sake it's not during a slam. What are your thoughts on the latest development of this Sinner doping situation? Do you side with WADA and believe Sinner should be punished, or should it just all be dropped? Let me know in the comments. And again, subscribe and click that notification bell so you're notified whenever I post an update video and whenever CAS does make its decision. Thank you all for watching and for your support, and I'll see you all next time here on Christian's Court.